Today we are grateful for your presence and as well as to share in this monumental event that can change our country in ways that will improve the lives of all Canadians. I believe that it is no coincidence that you found this video today. You have the power and potential and the value to blaze a trail for Canada and to change the future forever. Margaret Mead, a cultural anthropologist, once said, "Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has." We have seen living examples of this while witnessing the heroic work of Mother Teresa, Martin Luther King, Gandhi, Nelson Mandela, Princess Diana, and Nikola Tesla, just to name a few. The strong characteristics that these individuals had in common was courage, dedication, burning passion, a grander vision for the world and humanity, and a big heart. The legacy these wonderful people have left behind for us today is the foundation that we all build off of. The man who I'll be introducing you today carries the torch of their legacies and carries these characteristics that I listed and more. But before I do that, in order to talk about the future, we must first briefly revisit the past. Since the birth of the Industrial Revolution, the world has been moving at an alarming speed towards many technological inventions, social movements, medical breakthroughs, but have also led to countless wars, political and social unrest, economic downturns, and environmental disasters. Next, at the center of all of these issues is money and banking, or monetary reform. There was once a time when money created limitless opportunity, and it was a catalyst for innovation and expansion. But now, it is our number one roadblock, or money that is our number one roadblock, to implementing and innovating the systems and technologies that we need to save our planet from the perilous path that we're currently on. Today, you will be in the presence of a man who served as the Minister of Defense in the cabinet of Lester B. Pearson, the Minister of Transport in the cabinet of PM Trudeau, and was a senior minister, a position similar to the current Deputy Prime Minister. The thing that he's not as well known for are his contributions to economic reform through his associations with Comer and other similar organizations. He has worked relentlessly over 2 decades to ensure that a new economic legacy is implemented that will help all Canadians, and it will also lead to creating an example for other nations to also implement in the future. Living almost a whole century has granted him the privilege and the experience to witness many patterns, progressions, and pitfalls of our civilization, which makes him highly qualified to speak to you today on these matters. So without further ado, I introduce to you the Honorable Paul Hellyer. So today, I guess I would like to start by asking what exactly monetary reform is about.
Monetary reform is really about money, what it is, where it comes from, why some people, most of us in fact, and that includes our governments, federal, provincial, and municipal, seem to never have enough of it, while a few people, a very few people, 62 families in fact, own half the wealth of the world. Not only is that not right, how did it come about? It's because we have a system that is a fraudulent system, a giant Ponzi scheme, and it has to be changed. Because if it isn't changed, the wealthy people are going to have all the money in the world, or nearly all of it, and there's nothing left for the majority of the ordinary people or poor people in the world. So a massive change is absolutely essential, and that is what we're talking about. We're Canadian bank reformers, because unless we change our banking system and adopt the one that we had from 1939 to 1974 that worked so superbly well, and reinstate something like that, we're never going to have enough money for health, education, the arts, the First Nations, and all of the other essential needs of the day.
What are the current problems that we face today with our current economic system or monetary system?
The problem with our system today is that it's what they call a partial reserve system. Of our total money supply, only less than 1% is coins, maybe 2% bills, and all of the rest is nothing but bank deposits. And they're not really money. They're just bank deposits. They're virtual money. And they were created by banks who only had 5 cents for every dollar in loans that they created that became what we call money. So that's the reason that the rich bankers are able to buy up the world with 5% money, and the rest of us have to pay it back in 100% money with interest. So what we want is a system that gives everyone a little better break, and the ordinary people of the world a much better break. So instead of letting the private banks have a monopoly on creating money, which they presently have, 97% of all the money that's created, we want to reduce that to maybe 66%. And instead of having the governments of the world, and especially in our case, the Canadian government, with no creation, no capacity to create money, we want them to have the right to create 34% of the money, and to have it as government-created, debt-free money, so that we don't have to pay it back, so that once it's in the system, it's there to stay. And we have a plan to do just that, and it would liberate Canadians in a way that they have never been liberated since World War II.
So what is the solution that we can implement to help solve this problem?
Well, what we have to do is, first of all, to get the government of Canada to realize that it should not borrow money to pay off its deficit. It doesn't need to run deficits. Any sovereign government like ours, which has absolute authority over the banking system, can create enough money for the people's needs. So we have to get them, first of all, to acknowledge that fact and to remember that we once had a system like that that worked so superbly, and to readopt something like it in the future, which would once again allow us to do great things with money partially created by the Government of Canada as debt-free and partially by the private banks, working together so that we can do all of the things that have to be done without having to borrow money and go further and further into debt.
But how fast can this actually be implemented into our current system?
If the federal government really wanted to do this, and they made up their minds, and they got someone like me who understands the system to help them, they could put it into effect in 4 to 6 weeks. In 4 to 6 weeks, they could have more than enough money to do all of the things necessary to implement all of the promises they made during the election and more. And they could make enough money to give to the provinces to do the things that they have to do on their own and without strings attached. And the combination of spending by the provinces on their own and the federal government would speed up the recovery of the economy by 3 or 4 or 5 times, would reduce unemployment to, I would say, 50% of what it is now in 2 years, would increase the growth rate of the economy by at least 100% in 2 years, and would enable us in a few years to reduce our federal debt. All of those things are possible with the plan that was presented to the Government of Canada originally in 2013 by 40 very concerned Canadians, and many of them are still around and want the Government of Canada to finally implement that plan, which is available for them immediately, and is something they don't have to dream up or work on or get advice about, but just to do it, get it through Parliament, and make it work, and really give the Canadian people the break that they haven't had since 1974.
I think what some economists might bring up in the future as an issue to this is inflation. Some believe that this solution could create inflation. Is that correct, or how does that work exactly?
The suggestion that government created money is inflationary is just a bugaboo. It's a myth. Of course it would be inflationary if the banks were allowed to multiply it, as they are at the present time. But what is proposed in this plan is that the money created by the government be used by the banks as cash reserves against their deposits. At the present time, they have no cash reserves. You're lucky if your bank has 1 or 2 cents for every dollar that you think you have in the bank. So the proposal is to increase the cash reserves of the banks from nothing to 34% over a period of 7 years. And in that period of time, to increase enough money to meet all of the needs of a rapid sort of rejuvenation or rebirth of the Canadian economy, to make up for the short-changing of the last 42 years, and then with the surplus to pay down some of the debt. And then after the 7-year period, to have a steady stream of income equal to 34% of the new money created every year, in order to provide for the real needs of the people at all levels of government, and without high taxes and without ever having a deficit again.
I think this solution, would definitely make sense to a lot of Canadians. I think one thing that Canadians will want to clear up is how this system will directly affect their lives.
The way it affects their lives is that a lot less of their income would go to pay interest on debt, and a lot more would stay in their pockets that they could spend for things for their families, for themselves, for their retirement benefits, and for the things that they haven't had and will never have as long as we stick to the system that we have in effect at the present time. The way we're going, it's a dead end. Things might improve a tiny bit, but certainly nothing like has to be. We don't have the resources to do the things that need to be done, either for ourselves or, for example, to finance a fast implementation of clean energy so that we don't wreck our planet as a habitable place for the human species. So we have to have more money available to governments for essential purposes. And one of those essential purposes is environmental. And there's no way to do it, no way, except to have governments create a very large amount of government-created money, debt-free, to dilute the existing debt and to finance the things that have to be done for the benefit of the people, both in the short term and in the longer term, in an effort to try and save our planet.
I think all that information sounds absolutely wonderful, and I think a lot of Canadians will be thinking to themselves, you know, I have bills to pay, I'm on time constraints, how do I contribute to this without it consuming too much of my time? So Paul, if you will, could you tell us, what do you want Canadians to do exactly?
What we want Canadians to do, thousands of you, is to write a letter in your own words and say, Prime Minister, we want you to adopt the new social contract between the government and people of Canada. You have it, you know what it is, but we want you to adopt it now. And send a similar letter to the Minister of Finance. And one more, the third, to your Member of Parliament, asking them to support it and to get in touch with the Minister of Finance and the Prime Minister and apply pressure to get some action right away. Because this is the only way that anything is going to happen. As President Obama told some students in Jerusalem a few years ago, it's only when governments are pressured by their people that they will take time out to act on their behalf. So please do it. Get behind the Move It. movement because it's in your interests and those of your children and your grandchildren, and in my case and others, your great-grandchildren as well.
We all have to really think about our lives. If we have time to get up in the morning and make a cup of coffee, certainly we have the time to write these letters and get it sent to the respective offices. In the end, I guess I want to summarize by saying this issue affects all of us. It doesn't matter what walk of life you come from, your cultural or ethnic background. This is something that we can all unite on that will affect everything in our country and benefit everyone on all levels. If you want to get more information on this movement and on the things that Paul is talking about, please visit www.canadianbankreformers.ca. Make sure you check the information in the bottom of this video. Share this on social media, on our Facebook page. Tweet this, get this out to everyone, your families, your friends. Keep this movement going. We can't do this on our own. It's going to require all of us taking action. So I guess I'll leave it off with that. Please stay tuned to our website and our Facebook page for current updates. And let's get on this and let's get it done. This is it. This is the year. Thank you for your time.